Hello everybody, welcome back. So, I figured I would just give you guys an update on the Warwick build guide, because last time I talked to you guys, I showed you guys a build that I was sort of experimenting with at the time, which was the Gunblade build, and I have now experimented a little bit, and I have reached some conclusions, so I figured I would share those with you. And the conclusions are if you're against an enemy team that has very balanced damage, there are sort of two ways that I find personally that are the best ways that you can build against that. And both of them include the Wits End Blood Racer start that I showed you guys last time. But then I found out that in order for you to be able to teamfight properly, you pretty much need a GA after that, no matter what. To be honest, this should have been obvious to me from the beginning last time, but basically the way I build against a balanced team is the same three items, the same first three items every time. And then the Gunblade build is viable. I have tested that now. It's very, very strong, but it's not something I do every time. So basically, once you have your three first items, you gotta ask yourself the question, do I want more damage or do I want to be more tanky? If you want more damage, you go with the Gunblade build, because well, there's a number of reasons why Gunblade is so strong on Warwick, and I actually went over that in the previous build. But basically, the short story is it gives you just enough defense to where you can get away with it, and at the same time, it gives you one-shot potential. It actually gives you better burst and one-shot potential than even Ginsu's Rage Blade. So the reason why Gunblade works so well is because if you pick the right target, you can actually one-shot people from 100% health to 0. And usually the right target is the enemy mage, because around this time in the game, the enemy AD probably has a QSS. So unless the enemy mid laner is some kind of AD champion, you can usually just catch them out of position and then flash ult them. And I have actually tried doing that with a full 6-item build against a mage that also had 6 items, and even in the hyper late game where everyone has all of their items, you still one-shot people with this build, so it still works. Especially with the little bit of extra damage from Deadman's, which is why I think Deadman's is better than Randuin's here. I mean, you don't have to go Gunblade into Deadman's, you can go Randuin's instead if you want to. I just think Deadman's is better. The movement speed is pretty nice, and it combines very nicely with the ranged slow from Gunblade. But I also just think that the tiny bit of extra punch you're going to be packing with the damage from Deadman's is very, very nice when you're trying to burst people down, which is what this build is all about. So the other option you have is, if you want to get more tanky, you can go with a Randuin's. So basically, the idea behind this build is that since you're waiting so long to get your third damage item, and I already went over in the last video why I think you need a third damage item when you're going Wits End Blood Racer. It's just because these two items alone don't deal enough damage in the late game to where it's worth it. So I think you need a third damage item. And the idea behind this build is that you get your damage item so late that you may as well get the one that scales the best, and that just happens to be Rageblade. So that's what I do here. But you get the Randuin's first because, well, first of all, there's a reason why you want the extra defense right now. And if you didn't want that, then you would have just went with a damage item, like Gunblade. So getting Randuin's instead of, say, Deadman's or Sunfire is just the more natural pick because, you know, the active slow is really nice for this build. This build has no other way of slowing people down. So the active is really nice, and the crit reduction, the extra armor, the attack speed slow, it's all really nice. Because the Ginsu's doesn't give you any defense. It's a pure damage item. Gunblade is not a pure damage item. It bursts harder than Ginsu's, but Ginsu's outscales, and it's a more auto-attack focused item. So, since there's no defense here, I feel like going Deadman's after GA with this build doesn't really make that much sense. That's just me, though. Of course, you can do it if you want to. It's just a question of, you know, personal preference, and it's also a question of the different situations. If the enemy AD is fed and they're building crit, then, you know, Randuin's just the obvious choice. So those are the two different ways that I would build personally against a very balanced enemy damage team. So I figured I would just share with you guys, just give you guys an update, because last time I presented you with the Gunblade build that was a bit untested, a bit experimental, so here's the final conclusion for that. And also, there was somebody who asked me a question about whether Warwick can solo Dragon at level 6 once he has Wit's End. I already gave sort of a short answer to that, but just to elaborate real quick, by the time you have Red Smite and Wit's End on Warwick, you're probably not level 6 anymore, you're probably level 7 at that point, and yes, you can very much solo Dragon with that, especially if you still have your health potion from level 1 because you didn't use it. If you're running my runes and my rune setup, you might struggle a little bit, but I have done it myself, so it is possible. But you could run a rune setup where you go attack speed quints instead, so that would give you, it would give you better opportunities for soloing Dragon more easily, because with this setup, it's just going to take you a long time. You can do it, you can solo it, it just takes a while. However, the most important thing is actually that you're sneaking it. You can't solo the Dragon on Warwick without clearing the pit first, because there's like a 50% chance that the enemy team is going to see you trying to sneak it. And if they see you and you didn't clear it with a pink ward, well, they're just going to collapse on you and you're dead because you're fucking Warwick. So, you don't have an escape like if you were Rek'Sai or something like that. So, it's not just the Wit's End and the Skirmisher Saber that you need before you can solo the Dragon. You need an additional 75 gold for the pink ward as well. So that is something to take into account. And by the time you have all of that gold, you're probably not level 6 anymore. But point is that, yes, you can solo Dragon. So, thanks for watching. Peace.